We are visiting one of the first production plantations of Actinidia arguta in Poland, run in Bodzew near Grójec by Mr. Jacek Kostrzewa. The plantation was established in spring 2011. That is 3 years ago. Last year they had the first crop. We can already see this year's yield coming. The full productivity should be achieved in 2 to 3 years, and it will continue for another decade or more. The most popular way of training Actinidia is T-shape. 1 or 2 leading shoots are trained first. After they've been pruned, new shoots are trained to the sides. The plants should be placed well apart. What's the plant spacing here? It's 4 by 4 meters, but we have also planted a patch 4 by 2.5 meters to see which one will work better. The 2.5 meter spread has the benefit of the earlier fruit yield. Also, the plants consolidate sooner. Later though, the pruning's much more work. Belgian plantators say that even if we lose one plant at this stage, which can happen with Actinidias, the remaining plants will grow over this 5-meter gap. This is an advantage too. In the US, the recommended spread is even larger, isn't it? It is, but American plantators train the shoots higher and use pergolas. The spread is larger and the T-supports wires are joined. That's why the plants require special pruning to ensure access of light to every leaf. This is very important, as the leaves growing on the shoots underneath in the shade metabolize more than they produce, thus depleting the whole plant. It can be prevented by pruning. First, the basic winter cut, then at the beginning of blooming season, and again, optionally, at the end of July, the beginning of August. This method of pruning encourages the setting of flower buds, which will turn into fruit the following year. Actinidias can also be trained along espaliers. I see that you've used a fence. Let's have a look. These are Actinidias trained in espaliers along the fence. Shoots grow about 50 to 60 centimeters apart and are trained horizontally. Then the side shoots will be stretched out and pruned to allow the fruit setting. As far as productivity goes, this is less effective, but for amateur plantations, it's the easiest method of training. Mr. Kostrzewa bought a couple of cultivars from our nursery Clematis, the source of good climbers in Pruszków. We supply plantations in many European countries, in Belgium among others, and the Belgians are one of the pioneering Actinidia arguta growers in Europe. They research and compare varieties, and their plantations already cover around a dozen hectares in total. Our plants also serve to establish plantations in Great Britain, Spain, Portugal, Switzerland, Austria and Germany. This is a very promising pomological plant. Probably not of the same potential as apple trees, for example, but comparable to blueberry in a perspective of about 10 years. Except spacing the plants, it's very important to keep the ground weed-free. We have a straw bedding here to serve this purpose, and irrigation. Irrigation is a vital factor, as Actinidias prefer the soil moist. Not waterlogged, but constantly moist. They don't tolerate drought. Also, spring ground frost could cause them serious harm. Choosing a ground frost-free location is essential, as low temperatures can limit the plantation development. Actinidias are sensitive to late spring frosts, and even 2 degrees centigrade below zero can freeze new shoots. At a production plantation, a spring ground frost protection is necessary. Do you use frost protection here? Yes. We used it a couple of times this year. As you can see, we managed to save the plants. What method do you apply? We have anti-freeze sprinklers, sprinkling the plants from above. In the US, I saw a method that could be worth trying out here. Plantators spread white fabric on the ground. White insulation blankets that stop the weeds, let water through and reflect sun rays. Leaves with better light access assimilate more nutrients, and the fruit is nicely colored. Windscreens are placed around plantations to protect the plants and fruit from rubbing and grazing against each other. Such small flaws appear here and there. They affect the fruit appearance. Let's move on. On these poles, textile windscreens will be hung. This is such a windscreen. Such hail protectors hung on the poles should decrease the wind force by 20%. Growing actinidias, either as amateurs or professionals, we need to remember it's a dioecious plant. Female and male flowers appear on separate plants. There are some monoecious, or rather parthenocarpic varieties such as Isai, Kokuva, Vitikiwi, but they're not as plentiful, and in such large plantations they're not commonly used. Their other disadvantage is lack of blush on the fruit. Usually, to start a plantation, for each 6 to 8 female plants, there should be 1 male plant. At Mr. Kostrzewa's plantation, the male plants are trained higher on additional supports so that bumblebees and other insects flying over the plants stop at the male flowers first and then, having gathered the pollen, fly down to the female ones. This encourages pollination. Here are bumblebee cages. They help with the pollination. It seemed that red mason bees would be good pollinators, but it turned out that they hatch too early in spring. At the beginning of June, when actinidias start blooming, the bees die. At Actinidia plantations, red mason bees aren't useful, contrary to bumblebees. The very base of a plantation success is a planting material of high quality. That are strong plates of pure line, verified cultivars. We plant actinidias at the same depth as they were before. Some species can be placed deeper, but not actinidia, as there's a danger of necrosis and of the trunk dying back. There isn't one specific cultivar that would be ideal for any climate, any soil, or any market. It's worth trying out different cultivars. For example, in Germany, cultivars yielding red berries are in demand. The most popular are Puperna Sadova and Ken's Red. Puperna Sadova is quite interesting, as it's so plentiful. In 2015, we're going to introduce another red-berried cultivar, Scarlet September Kiwi. It's tastier and 2 weeks earlier than Puperna Sadova. At a mini kiwi plantation, just like the other fruit, it's important to spread the harvest out, assuming the chosen cultivars ripen from the beginning of September till the second half of October, and we have some storage system as well. We achieve 3-month availability, which is long enough to approach the consumers and to attract them to this novelty. This is particularly important when you deal with supermarkets. They need a constant supply. If a customer buys an item once, they'll look for it again. The American cultivar, Geneva, is a very good one. It's not Swiss, as its name could suggest. It yields fruit early and abundantly. The blushing berries are sweet and tasty. Geneva fruit is very aromatic, probably most aromatic of all actinidias, with a honey flavor. The cultivar of the largest fruit is Jumbo. The berries are greenish, with a yellow hue, without a blush. And there are many others to choose from. An interesting one is Rogów, a plentiful Polish cultivar with green fruit. We're standing by Actinidia arguta of a new Polish cultivar, Bingo, raised by Mr. Piotr Latocha of Warsaw University of Life Sciences. The first harvest occurred in 2013. As you can see, the plants yield an abundance of fruit. The berries are large, much bigger than the other cultivars I've tested. This cultivar seems promising and recommendable. Its fruit is tasty and has this warm blush. Wakey, Actinidia, and Geneva get a brownish blush, but this one here is pink and easier to achieve. It is worth noting that the attractive looks are followed by a nice taste. From 2015, the nursery Clematis, the source of good climbers, will have on offer Actinidia's Bingo plants suitable for starting a plantation, and here we can see what the fruit looks like and how plentiful is the cultivar. The most popular cultivar in Europe so far is Actinidia Kiwi, known also as Wakey, typically used for starting plantations and in amateur gardening. It's still the best tested cultivar that's dominated European plantations. Quite plentiful, with tasty fruit that blushes in sunlight and keeps well too. Yes, it does keep well. Another important thing is that it's not prone to skin grazing as much as other cultivars are. The most popular plantation cultivar in the US is Actinidia, also known as Anna, which, as you said, is similar to Wakey. These two cultivars are actually indistinguishable to a layman. I've planted about 100 Anna plants for comparison. It's very much like Wakey and also recommendable. They can be used as alternatives. Let's come closer. Here in front of us is Anna specimen. The harvest is underway. The indicant for harvest is sugar content in fruit. It's measured in the brick scale. If the fruit is to be stored for some time, it should be harvested at 6.5 to 7 points. Wakey or Anna fruit then lasts around 1 month in a cool storage and even 2 months in a controlled environment. The fruit ripens slowly. If we store the fruit at room temperature, the ripening time is much shorter, less than a week. The downside is that the fruit on shop shelves isn't ripe yet. There's no way around it. The consumers should know that it's worth having a couple of days after the purchase for the fruit to soften and wrinkle, as this is when it is at its best. This process can be helped at home. Ethylene, contained for example in apples, speeds up the ripening. If you place the Actinidia fruit in a box of apples and cover it with plastic foil, they should be ready in 3 to 4 days. Even sooner. I've tried out this method. If the apples are ripe, Actinidia berries will be ready to eat after 2 days. I see you're harvesting the fruit. Sometimes you cut whole bunches and sometimes single berries. What makes the difference? Actinidia yields fruit on 2 kinds of shoots. One is a spur shoot, like this one here. You can prune the whole shoot, cut off the leaves and petioles. It can be done at this stage, or you can get rid of the leaves and cut off the fruit, for example, in the pack house. There are also long shoots, and their fruit needs to be picked one by one. These are long shoots. We pick the berries one by one to save the shoots that will yield fruit the following year. What size containers do you use? We use mainly 125-gram boxes. As mini kiwi isn't cheap by definition, we choose small units to make the price more accessible. I've tested also 250 gram and 500 gram containers, and at 125 grams ones sold best. The consumer chose them also because one layer of fruit in a box is better presented. Every berry is visible, which is not the case even in 250 gram boxes. These berries are rich in vitamins, vitamin C amongst others, as well as in mineral salts. They are beneficial to our health and enrich and diversify our daily diet.